I'm surprised how much I remember this period or this incident in my life, because it seemed as if I can still vividly create it. The part I remember most was me drawing my fist back, looking across at the face of a classmate. And there where I went to school and grew up in Dayton, Ohio, it was the wintertime, it was cold. In those days, we would go home for lunch. We'd break for lunch, we'd walk home, and we'd walk back to school. And there in my neighborhood was a doctor's office that most of us cut through the parking lot that lived where I lived, cut through the parking lot of the doctor's office to get to where we lived. And I was walking with my sister, and there was one of my classmates, his name was Ronald. Ronald was a bully. Ronald was born, he had one hand that was always sort of drawn up and a leg that was shorter than the other. But he was a bully. He bullied people, and he would bully me all the time, but I would really never fight back because I felt like it wasn't right to do that and all of that. But that particular day, I don't know what it was, but we were walking and my sister was with me, and all of a sudden I remember Ronald grabbing me by the shoulder and spinning me around. And as I stood there, my first fight, 3rd grade, remember that hand coming back after me throwing that punch, watching as it was cold outside, his lips were chapped, and I watched the lip kind of burst open and the blood come out of that and all of that, and we continued to fight, and then it was over. I don't even remember how it was over or why it was over. I just know that he gave up, he quit. And so my sister and I walked on home. We had lunch at the house. I didn't really say anything about the fight. My father happened to be sick that day, so he was home, and he was upstairs in bed and all of that, and I went upstairs to say hello to him, and we went back to school, and I thought everything that was it. And then, a few minutes later, as we were sitting there in the classroom, over the intercom came the school secretary's voice. John and Ronald, report to the principal's office. So the teacher let us go to the principal's office, and as we were walking there, he was saying stuff to me like, I'm going to tell him you started it, I'm going to tell him it's all your fault. And I was just kind of resigned. I don't know, I just was really not that caught up or that concerned about what was going to happen or what was going on. But he was, I'm going to tell him it's your fault that you did it all. And I just kind of stoically and quietly walked on. We got in the principal's office. Now the principal was Mr. Tilton. We called him Bulldog Tilton because he was kind of short, but he had a big, powerful chest, powerful forearms, and all of that. And you kind of minded yourself around Mr. Tilton, and even maybe a little bit scared of Mr. Tilton. So we get in the office, and when we get in the office, as soon as we get in there, Ronald starts to cry. He sits us down, he asks us, what happened. He heard that there was a fight, and he goes on. Ronald, sure enough, blames me, says it was my fault, I started it all. We had that conversation, and then Mr. Tilton says, well, I'm going to have to call your parents. And Ronald started really crying, begging me, please don't call my mama, please don't call my mama. And I just kind of sat there. He picked up the phone, he called, and my father answered because I said he was home, he had been sick, and he talked with him, and then he talked with Ronald's mother, and he told them both that he was going to have to punish us. And so, sure enough, after he hung the phone up, he got up, he went over to the wall by his desk, he picked up the paddle that was sitting back there, the ones that we always heard of, that had holes in it, that made it, to swing a little faster, a little harder, and all of that, and he had us bend over, and he gave us a few swats. I still stood there, I didn't say anything. Ronald really was crying. We walked back to class. When we got to class, he told everybody that I cried. I was in the principal's office crying, and I still really didn't say anything. It just really was not on my radar to be concerned about anything else he had to say. And a part of that was because when we were there in that fight and there were other people gathered around us, something happened. There were people that were in that circle that I knew, or that I thought I knew, were my friends. I thought they had my back. And as we stood there and we squared off and we started to fight, I heard one or two of them say, "Get him, Ronald." I even heard somebody say, "I never liked him anyway." And I can remember the feeling at that moment, for a brief moment, like probably the only person that was on my side was my sister. And I knew she had my back. I knew she was there. She was younger than I was, but I remember her standing there and the look on her face. You know, her brother's fighting. This is his first fight and all of that. And I remember the feeling, how it felt that people that I thought were my friends, people I thought were on my side, people that I thought that had my back, were expressing a different opinion. And that started a life lesson that I have to admit I'm still learning. Because when the theme and the title of this topic I put up, Vibe with Your Tribe, one of the things that still sometimes surprises me, and it shouldn't, I'm 57 years old now, but the fact of it is that not everybody that says they're with you, not everybody that says they're your friend, not everybody that you think you can count on really has your back, really is for you. And so the thing of it is, when I started using the phrase "vibe with your tribe," I was talking with a person and we were sharing things that we felt that might be helpful for us. And one of the things that I said to her, because she was expressing getting a particular aspect of her business going, and I was giving her some things that I thought might be helpful. And one of the things that I just kind of said that I really wasn't thinking at the moment about it a whole lot. It felt helpful. It came from some place inside of me, and I said, and remember to always vibe with your tribe. And later she came back to me and she said, you know, one of the best pieces of wisdom and advice that you gave me was that when you said, vibe with your tribe. And I almost forgot I hadn't said that to her. But she said that my business, my life, my direction has changed once I instituted that. And once I started doing that, and I started thinking about the fact of how in life we can forget that. We can find ourselves trying to get everyone else on board with us, and sometimes not really appreciating the people who are. I remember my first church when I was pastoring in Dallas, Texas, and it was a Methodist church, CME church, and there was a particular morning that the fraternity I belonged to, they were visiting the church. It was my first church, and they were coming to visit. And for whatever reason, it seemed like a whole lot of the people in the church decided to stay home that day. In fact, there were probably more people in the fraternity and my frat brothers and their wives than there were members, it seemed like, almost. So I'm there and I'm embarrassed because I wanted to put on this good and big impression that, you know, they were coming to a church where, because I knew some of them, the churches they went to, so they were going to have a chance to see me in my church. We were going to have all these people, and we generally had a nice crowd. But that particular day, they just decided to stay home. So I would get up and I would talk about the people who were not here and say certain things and certain remarks. And then when the offering time came, it was customary there for the officers, one of the officers, to get up and make a few comments before people gave and encourage people to give. And so the man who got up said, well, you know, this morning I'd like to thank all the people who are here today. And it struck me. I had spent all that time beating up on the people who were there about the people who weren't. it's important that we appreciate the people who show up in our lives, who are vibing with us or are part of our tribe. And sometimes we can so pursue what we think is approval and support from other people that we neglect the people who are always there. I see that sometimes in relationships. Somebody who's searching for and trying to get ahead and do all those kinds of things, and they have that person who's been with them all the time, and yet they neglect to realize that significant other, that special person who's been supporting them through thick and thin, who's always been on their team, who's been what you've heard me talk about, your partner in believing. I thank God for my partner in believing, that person who holds the space for you and knows the truth about you when you don't know it about yourself. Because sometimes, we can have the best of intentions. We can come here to a place like Open Heart or wherever it is we go or whatever our practices are, and we can do our affirmations, we can do all of those things, and do our affirmative prayer, we can set our intention, we can have cards and everything else, we can have our crystals, we can, whatever it is that we might do. We can have all of those things, and still there will be challenges in life. Still. And then there's that person who, through those times, is there, holding our hands when it needs to be held. And sometimes even not holding the hand, because sometimes we're so busy and so caught up that we don't have time for it, but who's still there, knowing and holding the truth for us. A part of our vibing with our tribe. And I think it's important that we understand that. I think it's important that we get this notion, because a part of the spiritual journey, you will hear teachers tell you and tell us all the time with our spiritual journey, that as we do our spiritual work, that as we set our intentions, as we make our plans, as we look to do the things that we want to do in life, we don't need to tell everybody what we're doing. Some of y'all are nodding your heads and think you know what I mean. Because there are some people that we would think they would be some of the first people to be excited for us and support us and jump up and down and say all of those things. And as soon as we announce what it is that we are doing, they are the ones who will remind us, well, you tried that and it didn't work, or how are you going to do that? So we have to be careful. We have to be selective. We have to do that. And we have to also understand that even those people who say they do, who say they will. Because when I organized Open Heart and we got started, I remember a young lady that where I teach there at the U of M, and I happened to tell her about Open Heart and what it is that we were doing. And we were in the cafeteria, and she started stopping people and saying, you all need to go to this man's church, because it's going to be amazing. It's going to be this and that. It's going to be all of those things. That was back in 2002. From 2002 to 2018, she has never set foot in Open. But was just, and the thing of it is, I began to find out that if I had $1 for everybody who told me that they were coming, I would be sitting on the beach right now, and you all would be here, and I would be thinking about you. But it's important to understand that about vibing with our tribe, and it's not about getting other people's approval, because we can get caught up in getting other people's approval or pursuing, as sometimes is talked about, the good opinions of others. And that's not what's important either, because the good opinions of others can change. Do something that they want you to do or like. But it's about something more. It's about being in a spiritual place where we tap into that energy, that divine energy that's there for us, that is there, that is guiding us and connecting us and helps us to know that there are companions along the way, that there are people along the way that are with us, people that are guiding us, people that show up for us, things that happen when we understand that we are part of a much larger network, a much larger community of things. We begin to understand what it really means to vibe with your tribe. I love the book, The Secret of Shambhala, that James Redfield did, because one of the things in that particular book, he talks about situations or circumstances where the particular hero, if you will, of that book found himself. He had found himself kind of, not really understanding things, going to Shambhala. It was a place in Tibet that was supposed to be the place where magical things happened and where the Tibetan monks that were there were praying for the world and all of those things. And it was supposed to be a mythical place, and somehow he found himself on pursuit of it. And every time he got started, and things happened, because the Chinese army would close in on him and sometimes it would catch him. But along the way, there were things that were happening. And one time when he was being chased by the army side of a building, and he saw a golden light around the doorway, he took that doorway and he was able to escape. There was another time he was running and there was a car by the side of the road and just kind of showed up, and there was a golden light that was there, but he didn't get in the car, he got caught. And later he ultimately found the place, Shambhala, and as he talked to some of the leaders that were there, and they told him that throughout this entire journey, there were things and people along the way that were there for you if you would just have made yourself open and available to them. They said that car that you saw, it was intended for you to get in that car and it would have whisked you away to safety. That other things that happened there, that we are a part of a much larger network, a community of faith, a community of spirit, a realm, if you will. And I know this is going to sound unusual or crazy even for some people, but I happen to believe this. And when we talk about the fact that we live on this plane, and when we use the terminology, we talk about people, they don't die, they make their transition, meaning they move from this plane, this existence, to the next. And as they do so, there's still a relationship between us and that realm. And it's possible for us to understand this and see ourselves being guided and directed from those who are part of our network, a part of this, our ancestors, if you will. You sometimes hear about religions where they revere the ancestors. It's not about worshiping the ancestors. It's about recognizing that they still are a part of our everyday existence. They still have our back. They're still, and I can share stories and experiences of people who have assisted and people who have done, but it's about understanding a larger picture that we are a part of, that when we vibe, when we tune in and we tap in and we turn on that which is a part of us, our connection, we then begin to feel that which is a part of who we are and that is welling up in us and guiding and directing us in the things that we need to do, the information that somehow becomes available to us, or that person who has the key for something that shows up. I just think about a lot of things that continually happen that is about being tuned in and vibing with our tribe. And it's important that we recognize this and we realize this. And also always be open to those people and those occurrences that we sometimes would write off. I was thinking about this blog post I read the other day about a guy who had started back to grad school. He was taking a class. He liked to go down to the front of the classroom, and after the first day or two, he would go down there to his seat, and there was a guy that was sitting next to him who had all his stuff in his seat and on his desk, and he would have to fumble and get things out of the seat every time he would come. And he got kind of irritated because he was saying, I know we don't have names on the seats, but this is kind of my seat. And every time I show up, he's got some of his stuff in my seat. And he became irritated with him. The guy was not from the U.S. He spoke English wasn't his first language. He didn't do very well with English and all of those things. But one particular time the guy said that he was late. And he got down there, and just as he did, there was another guy who had come, who was trying to sit in the seat. And he said the guy who was sitting there in his broken English was explaining to the guy, you can't sit here because this is my friend Dan's seat. Then he realized he wasn't trying to be rude. He wasn't trying to move me out or anything. He was saving a seat for me. Even people we sometimes want to write off or be irritated about or whatever else are part of our tribe. And then the final thing, when we realize this whole kind of working together of the universe that is bringing us the people that we need, that is helping us to share with people who are a part of our network, who encourage us and direct us and guide us and accompany us, and all of those things, that ultimately, even those folks that sometimes cause us trouble, they know how to work that last nerve. Anybody got a person like that? To work that last nerve. Sometimes can be one of the best gifts that we ever had. When I was organizing Open Heart and I was out walking Shelby Farms one day when I still lived out east, and I ran into a woman that I knew. She had actually been a member of the church that I had served right before I left, and there was a gap of probably about 7 or 8 months between leaving there and organizing Open Heart. And she happened to be out there walking around too. And so when we started to talk, she asked me what was I going to do, and I told her about Open Heart and the ideas about Open Heart and all of the things we wanted to do with Open Heart and what it would be and all of that. And as we had that conversation, something that she said to me that was quite negative, that I just kind of listened, took it in. I got home, and about 2 a.m., I sat straight up in the bed. Her words ringing in my ear once again. And I sat down at that point, and the idea and the vision for this community started to come out, and I put it down on paper. And it gave me a clarity that every now and then, when feels like I want to lose my way with this place, my mind goes back to that encounter. It goes back to that paper. It goes back to that vision. It goes back to that intention. And what she said, while it was meant to tear me down, became a gift that allowed me to rise up. Not rise up above in such a way, but continue to stand. Even in those times when the inclination and the tendency is to sit down, give up, or be overcome or overwhelmed. So when we get into this space of recognizing and embracing all that is, a tribe becomes apparent. Your tribe becomes apparent. Those people that are in your life, that are there, the encouraging ones and not so encouraging ones. It's all about your tribe. And the thing I leave with you is to let it vibe. Be open. Be available. Be all in present. In the scripture, when the master teacher Jesus said to be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect, the word that's used here, the Greek word perfect, is not about never making mistakes. It's about being all embracing. Perfect, the good, the bad, the positive and negative, because it puts us in that unitary state where we vibe. And so, good morning.
Oh, I invite you to take a breath. Releasing this breath. Knowing that there is only one power and one presence in the universe, and that is God. And as each of us embodies all that we have learned today, we take it in, we make it our own, and we simply live from those very truths. We give thanks for all who have participated today. We give thanks for the lesson, the centering moment, the affirmative reading, beautiful music, and just the beautiful energy that each and every person is brought into this space, into this place today. Moving forward, knowing that I have the most beautiful tribe. I vibe with that tribe. Even those people that want to give me a little bit of negativity, I take it, I turn it around, and I make that my purpose of knowing that I must be on the right track. It's beautiful to have a tribe full of people, places, and situations that allow me to be who I am, that allow me to live, to grow. I vibe with my tribe. I release, I let go, and I let God. And so it is.